All right, welcome everyone to another interview. We're going to try and do these a little bit more regularly. And for the first episode of the online interviews, I got myself someone in who's actually not in HGC these days. We're going to talk about that a bit later on. QQ. So I have Lauber with me. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
So, Lauber, first of all, let's talk a little bit about you and how you got into esports, because a lot of people might not really know you too well. So, can you just tell us a bit about where you're from, how old you are, and especially how you actually started with esports?
Well, my name is Johan Lauber, and I'm from Sweden. I'm 22, and I basically started playing League when I was pretty young. I
What
was
does pretty young mean?
pretty young, maybe like 13, maybe
Okay.
something like that. I used to play COD, but Modern Warfare, and I used to hate PC. But then my friend introduced me to League of Legends, and I didn't like it at first, but they all played it, so I had to play with them because we were going on LANs and stuff. And then I kind of grew into the MOBA genre and
Why did you
started
hate
playing.
playing PCs?
I don't know. I just had like a personal grudge against PC players as a controller, like Xbox player myself. It was just in my blood to hate PC players.
Okay, and then with League, basically you got completely stuck in the MOBA genre, and ever since
Yeah,
then you play that?
yeah. I played League for a couple of years. I actually made mid before, and I played in like amateur team. Didn't really get any big far. I went to master and challengers, but
Mhm.
I never got into a good team. And then, like around season 4, I got pretty tired of League. It changed too much, so I knew Simon or Schwimpy, and he introduced me to Heroes of the Storm. And then I started playing it, and I got caught, and then playing since ever then.
So when you started with Heroes, like what exactly caught your attention with Heroes compared to League or other games that you played before? What was it that just said,
That
okay, this is the game
there
I want to
wasn't
play?
there wasn't really any laning phase. Like the action started right away, and it was pretty fun. It wasn't like, oh, you have to farm for like 25 minutes like League was back in the days. Um, so that is action from just level 2 really interested in me. So you can just play more for fun and less to grind.
But you didn't start out with Heroes with the idea of getting a competitive or becoming a pro player, right? Like at first it was probably just you having fun with friends.
First, it was just me having fun. I mean, Simon kind of hinted at me that they needed a support player, so I tried to play support for like a couple of weeks, but it was so boring, so I didn't play it and just started playing tank.
And when did that transition happen where you said, okay, I want to try this competitively? Also, maybe before we
Mm.
go into that, at the time, were you still at school when you started with Heroes? And how long did you play Heroes before you tried to make a play in the competitive environment?
I I think I started playing Heroes at the end of my last semester
Mhm.
in what do you call it, high school, I
Yeah, I
guess.
guess.
Um, and then I played like a year, and then before I started like playing competitive, I think it was like at Gamescom,
Mhm.
the Gamescom qualifiers. I really like. Yeah, I just put up with a team of friends, Swedish friends, and we started playing a bit competitive. And then I realized that it was a lot more fun playing like competitive Heroes of the Storm rather than just Tier League because
Mhm.
it's like a completely different game almost. Um, so I really wanted that, and then I played for the HGC as well, the first one. I think that was with Thundercats, or maybe the Gamescom was with Thundercats. And then when we beat Liquid, um, we had like an intense game on Tomb of the Spider Queen that lasted for like 36 minutes or something. I really knew that the game was so fun to play competitive, and I wanted to play it competitive ever since.
So, what did you do after you decided, okay, I want to do this more regularly? I actually want to break into the pro scene. What were your first steps? Were you trying to do that with your old team? Did you have a plan of getting into a better team or creating one? And did it somehow change the way that you started playing, like approaching the game?
I was way more try hard after like in Hero League and stuff like that because I wanted to climb and show myself as a player. First, I played with like relatively unknown players, just amateur players to get just my name out there. Played a bit with Cursen actually,
Mhm.
um, for a little bit, but I was not as good then back then, so that didn't last so long. Then I just bounced between amateur teams before I basically decided to really try hard in Hero League. And then Blikitny got to know me, and he asked me to play like what was the cup? Kings of the Storm, I think it was. And then we beat the Polska then. That was pretty good.
Polska
and then
Pamięta, I think.
Pamięta, yeah. And then we took one game of Expert, I think it was. And we stuck together since that. Played the first Open Division, and rest is history, I guess.
And when you made it into, I mean, you're full-time right now, or you were full-time when you made it in HGC, and you're still pursuing now Open Division again. So university is on hold, or what was the plan before you actually decided to invest all your time into Heroes as a pro player?
My time was just to work and not go to study right away, because I was very sick of studying. So I just want to take like a year or two break at least. So I was just working meanwhile while I was playing HOTS. And when I went into the HC, actually it was kind of funny because my employment actually ended the same month as I got into HGC.
Okay,
it's kind of lucky.
There's a story with a burger flipping at McDonald's. Can you go into that for a second?
Yeah, well, I basically worked at Max, which is a Swedish hamburger restaurant. And I was working there at the same time I was competing in OD. So it kind of become a meme that either I play Heroes of the Storm or I work like at McDonald's. So I made a tweet about it before we went into the Crucible, and then when we won, I realized I didn't have to flip any more burgers, and the only burgers since then has been my own.
So when you made it into HGC, coming through the Open Division, what changed? Can you describe a little bit the difference between playing in Open Division and then playing in HGC, and how that also maybe changed your own perception of the competitor scene?
I think in Open Division you get away with a lot of more small mistakes. You can overextend a bit. You don't have to have as good macro play. All you really have to do is be good at team fighting, I guess. So when we first entered ADC, I realized like if I do a small mistake, I'm gonna get really punished by it, and it can cost us like a huge lead. So I started playing, like focusing more on playing more like conservative, but not like too scared, but not overextending when I don't have to, or scouting more in bushes, giving more vision, and like just stepping up my game because it was really needed.
And competing on that level, like what happened since then? You guys made it into HGC and leftovers. Your team back then, you guys improved as a unit, but then towards the end, you still started becoming better, but you still fell into the Crucible. You were able to defend your spot, but currently you are in Open Division again because you were exchanged for Mopsio. So, what exactly happened there?
Well, basically what happened is that I got some other like tries in other teams, and a lot of people talked good about me, so they were kind of sure I was getting into another team, and they wanted to try out Mopsio, who's been kicked for Zealots, as a replacement. And I think he really fit with the team, and he took like over even more shot calling from Blikitny, so Blikitny could focus more on his own gameplay, and I think that was really good for the team. So they decided to go with him instead of me, and he's also Polish, which makes it a bit easier for them because they can speak Polish sometimes when they do fights and stuff. And then I didn't get into another team, and it kind of fell a bit. It was a bit weird, and I was very surprised that I didn't get into another team. But I'm not too sad about it because I know if I deserve to be in HGC, I will get there. So hopefully I can get it in there with my new team.
Okay, so we're going to come back to your new team in a moment, but when you made it into HGC, what really interests me too is like, how did your family actually react to that? We did some interviews with other people, with Blumby, for example, where he said that his parents had a bit of trouble at the beginning to grasp the concept of being a pro gamer. I think, especially in all the Scandinavian countries, Sweden in particular, that's way more of an accepted profession, or at least like it's way more on people's mind. So how did that actually play out for you? Was there any feedback? Was there anyone who said like, are you really want to do you really want to risk this, or what was the general perception of what you wanted to do?
I mean, I've been talking about being an esports player all the way back when I started playing League. So they've always been supportive of me in my career choice, and they were just really supportive all the time. They were making sure I had a job and I had a healthy sleeping schedule and stuff like that. But they were really supportive, and they were super happy for me when I get into the HGC and could do my dream for a full time. So they have been super supporting, like not negative at all about it.
Did that change in any way when you then dropped out of HGC and decided, okay, you want to make your way through Open Division into HGC again?
Not really. They're still super supportive, but of course they making sure I'm living healthy and I gonna get like money and stuff like that so I can survive. But they're still very supportive, and my dad still watches all my games, even in Open Division, and he tries to figure out when it's not getting streamed on the main channel, if he can see some of the German. He asked me, "Oh, you're gonna be streamed on the German or the French channel?" So he's still very supportive and still watches all my games, so it's pretty fun.
Do they understand the game? Like, do they criticize you when you're making mistakes, or do they talk about how you guys need to improve or something?
My dad is kind of funny because he talks like he knows what he's talking about. So he's like, but he's basically just copying you or like Tetcher or Grubby. He's like, oh yeah, it was watching like the Fnatic versus Liquid, and he's like, oh, and then Fnatic started playing Falstad and all over the map and stuff, and I don't think that was good for them. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Dad, sure, you know what you're talking about, like. But I think he understands the basics and stuff, but he doesn't really understand what's happening all the time in fights.
Does he play?
No, he doesn't play.
Okay.
He doesn't even have a computer. He only have a tablet, and you can't play Heroes on the tablet set.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird.
I think Hero League would be even worse than it already is, if that was possible.
Then again, can it be worse? I mean, right now the season just started, and a lot of the streams that I've been watching today, at least, had a very interesting time playing the first game. So I'm not so sure.
It's placement games, so
yeah. Okay, so you dropped out of the Open Division, you dropped out of HGC, and you went into Open Division. And as it happens, at the same time, Grand Paquette was also dropped. So you guys, I think it started with the two of you that decided to make a team, right? So how did that go? And because right now you're playing for ePunks Black, you were called Watermelons before. We need to talk about that name because I'm really interested where that came from. But basically, you have a super team right now. Like, how did that build together? Especially talk also a bit about Sonic. He was pretty frustrated when he didn't make it into HGC and he didn't get a spot. Quit. Exactly, he quit. He talked about, okay, I don't want to play this anymore. And then Open Division starts, and he's immediately back playing with you guys. So how did all of that came to pass?
I think it was, I don't remember, I think Grandpa just contacted me on Twitter, like after we both got released from our team. And he told that he wanted to make a team. So I was just figuring out who to pick, and I noticed that Roscommon also got kicked from his team. And I think that was kind of a wake-up call for him, because he's a bit more motivated now to actually get back into the HGC. So we tried to play with him as well. And then Sonic came back to Heroes. I don't know really why. I don't think he quit for like that many days. I think he couldn't keep his hand away from Heroes. So we kind of picked up him as well, because we knew he was good, and he has expanded his Heroes pool, and he has the experience playing on stage, which is pretty cool. And then it was just a problem finding like the solo laners, because I don't think EU has the best solo laners at the moment, at least not in amateur levels, because I think it's kind of hard to play like efficient solo laner. But Sonic knew Cass for like a year now or something, and he said that Cass was a really good player, so we tried him out and a couple of others, and I think Cass really fit our team, and he's learning a lot very quickly about how to rotate, and he always wins his matchup, even if it's like losing ones. So he's just a really good fit for the team.
So how does the team work currently? I mean, who's shot calling for you guys? Who's making the macro decision in the game? Is there difference between macro shot calling and in-fight shot calling for you right now? Like, just lead me to the process of how you guys work together.
I think mainly it's me shot calling both macro and fighting, but I always try to get everyone to speak. So I'm asking, like when I'm shot calling, I'm also asking a bit like question, oh, can we do hard camp now? And stuff like that. And maybe Sonic's playing Greyman and he's run, but yeah. And then we go to hard camp and I awfully, like I'm trying to improve my shot calling. So it's good that I play on Open Division now so I can improve it for HGC or the Crucible. So it's basically just me shot calling, and then in fights is mostly me calling targets, but everyone is saying like their point of view, you know.
Talking a little bit about Open Division, I mean, for you guys, everything went pretty well so far. You won the first two cups right away. I don't think you dropped the map yet.
Yeah, we
So
have.
how are you a little bit afraid that currently you are a little bit too dominant? Because one of the things that we've heard in the past when Open Division teams made it into the Crucible is that all of a sudden there's a huge skill gap already between Open Division teams and a lot of the HGC teams, so that the Crucible is incredibly difficult to play. I mean, you have a lot of experienced players on your lineup, so you are aware of that. But how do you deal with the fact that you're currently so dominant in Open Division? Do you scrim HGC teams already? Do you guys have certain goals? I mean, you could even go into a game, and say, okay, we know we're going up against opponents that are weaker than us. Let's make sure we don't drop a single map, or that we limit the amounts of deaths that we have on the team. Is anything like that happening to make sure you don't get too overconfident?
Like it's a good question because it can be kind of bad when Open Division is too easy because you don't really get the competition. I think there's like a few teams that are like basically there's like the amateur teams. Then there's like a few teams who's there, and then we are like here. I feel like so it's kind of bad because you can't really get good enough practice, and the HGC teams maybe doesn't want to scream you right now, or they want to see how they are in for the Crucible, because you don't want to scream an Open Division team that maybe is going to play against you, obviously. So right now it's just getting good practice, and when you're already winning a lot, you kind of feel, do we have to scream? Like, can we just chill instead because we're already winning? So we have to make sure we don't get into that mindset of we're so good we don't have to practice, because that's not going to be good coming into the Crucible.
You talked a bit about scrimming and how especially teams within HGC that are maybe in the lower spots might not want to scrim you guys because they are already thinking, okay, what happens if we drop into the Crucible? Maybe we have to play these guys, and if we scrim them now, they have too much information on our team. How do you deal with that? Like, who do you scrim right now? And are you able to get at least some scrims against HGC teams, or is that something where you think, okay, you have to show a little bit more dominance in Open Division first before the HGC teams actually think they get something out of that practice time?
I think, like, obviously the HGC teams, the players know we're capable players, but I think we need to start performing a little. Maybe in two cups it will be a bit easier, but we can probably get some HGC scrims now, maybe some warm-ups in for the HGC games for them, or stuff like that. But I think soon enough we will start scrimming more HGC teams than Open Division teams.
So right now you're only scrimming Open Division teams?
Maybe. I'm not sure. We're in talk with some HGC teams about scrimming, so we will see.
How do you deal with, I mean, one of the things that has to be on your guys' mind is what happens when we start losing. Let's say you are really doing well right now, I mean, when you're winning...
Sorry, Keller. My foot just fell asleep. Ooh. Wait. Ooh. I have to walk a little bit.
That stays in.
It's like 1,000 needles. Ooh. Whew. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a little bit distracted. What were you saying?
No problem, dude. I was basically just asking you, how do you try? I mean, one of the worries that you guys have to have at this point is that with how dominant you currently are in Open Division, even if you at one point lose a map, you guys will still always feel, okay, we're winning everything, and winning is always easy. Once that you start losing a couple of games, that's when a lot of the synergy within the team is going to become really important, that as a team you can address losses and can first of all learn from them, but also realize, hey, we might lose something here, but at the same time we're still able to win this. That has to be a bit of a concern, especially, let's say,
Yeah.
heading into even Open Division playoffs. I mean, we're still far away from that, but at this point, we can safely assume that you're going to make it into the playoffs at least. So what happens when you start losing a game or two there? Is that something that you already actively talk about, especially with Cass, who doesn't have the comparative experience that you guys have, or how do you guys deal with that? Or is it something that you don't address yet?
We haven't really addressed it yet, but I think like it's on everybody's mind. That's why it's important to get some practice against HGC teams, so we can see what they're doing in the meta and get like an understanding more about the game, so we don't just fall into the Open Division routines of overextending and stuff like that. And I think it's really important to not get too upset by your losses and learn what you can do better, how you can position better or shot call better, micro better, or whatever it is. I think be able to like control your losses and not get mad about them and actually see it as a learning opportunity is really, really important, especially coming at playoffs and Crucible, as you said. Because if we don't have lost a lot and then start losing in playoffs, maybe we get like angry or scared and our confidence falls. So hopefully we can lose some screens matches as well, so we don't only win.
Are you currently also experimenting a little bit more in the games that you have in Open Division? I mean, some of the games that you played were a couple of wonky comms, and there was always the question, okay, is that them not taking the game serious? Is that them trying something where they think, okay, this has actually potential and we need to test it now in a live environment and not only in scrim games?
It's a bit of both. Maybe I'm gonna say that the ABBA solo support with Raynor wasn't the most stable comp we ever played. Maybe more of a fun comp, but I think it's a bit of both. Some comps can be serious if you change another pick or two, but maybe we don't want to show everything. But I think we mostly play to win and have fun while we're winning.
That's actually a really good point. Like the showing how much you already played the Crucible, so you kind of know exactly where you're coming from there, and you actually played it twice. I mean, you played it once when you made it into HGC, and then when you guys were trying to hold your spot back then before Mopsio came in and you were let go. How much of a problem is it for the team coming from the Open Division and for the team from HGC to actually get reliable information on the opponent? Is that something where one side has an upper hand because there's more video material out there, or would you say that's still fairly even?
I think like it's more like video, like the matches are better quality, so to speak, in the HGC. So I think as an Open Division team, you have a lot more footage to watch that's actually viable and reliable to see how your opponents play. Because we can just play like versus like worse team than us. We can play a bit non-standard and still win, you know. So maybe we're not gonna play like that in the Crucible. So definitely there's more information to gain on the video footage, but at the same time, the players coming from HGC into the Crucible, they have more like experience of playing when it really matters, like HGC games, and when they have pressure on them. And I think they are always gonna be stronger than any Open Division team coming in.
How much of a difference does it actually make when you have that HGC experience? And let's not talk about the offline events even here in the stage play, but let's talk a bit about playing in the HGC setup on the weekends where you have, you're getting streamed, where you have the routine with everything being locked down on a tight schedule because the show has to run there. How much of a difference is that, especially when you are a player that hasn't experienced that before? Let's say, for example, you guys make it into the Crucible and Cars plays for the first time in that environment. Do you think that might be something that affects him? Or is there not really that much of a difference because you're still playing from home in an environment that you know?
I think it mostly affects people in the first game and maybe the second as well. But as soon as you like start playing and you really get into the first game, you're actually just so like focused on actually playing the game, so you don't really analyze on what's at stake. You just play and try to win the game. But definitely, I think like the players coming from HGC, even though they're playing to defend their spot, which is a bit more pressure than because we don't really lose anything if we lose. I still think that they're going to be more calm about the situation because they've been playing on the stream on HGC for half a year. So I definitely think they have the experience, like the fresh experience of playing in HGC. So they should be less pressure than Open Division teams coming in, even if they have more on the line.
All right, let's go away from Open Division HGC for a moment. We had a patch just drop a day ago, and there's a lot of changes coming in with it, and one of them is now also having the 3 bans in the game. What's your personal thought process on having the 3rd ban in, and what kind of impact do you think it's going to have on the meta and on competitive play?
Well, mostly I don't do too much drafting, so I'm not like 100% sure, but I think it's a very good change. I think you won't see like a lot of one diversity meta. I think like you will see a lot of different metas, I believe, and I think it's really good for the game so you can remove more heroes. So it's not like Genji Tracer banned every time. You can actually ban out more of your opponents. Like let's for say you're playing ADRD, you can ban out Abathur and Midi first rotation if you want. So I think it's good to have the extra ban, and it's gonna help the meta evolve. Hopefully to something else than focusing the tank.
How much of a pressure does it actually put on you as an individual player that we have more bans? Because in theory, you can now really start targeting player a lot more heavily that have a lower hero pool, and maybe not completely ban them out, but at least push them towards a hero where they're not as strong and impactful as. Is that a huge concern for you as an individual player, or is that something that doesn't really make a difference?
Doesn't really affect me, or I don't think it really affects anyone in my team. I think we're kind of diverse and we can play a lot of different heroes, but some other people might have to expand their hero pool, because if you just focus on playing 2 or 3 heroes, it's going to be really hard for you to get a hold of one of those heroes with this extra ban.
Coming to you personally for just a moment, I mean, you're the tank player for your team. Why did you decide to be a tank? I mean, you talked earlier a bit about how you tried the support role and it wasn't really a fit for you, but what made you choose in favor of tank and not head into, let's say, DPS or the offlane as a flex?
Yeah, well, basically I forgot to mention that I started playing top lane in League of Legends as well. And that's it. When I was playing, there was a lot of tank meta there, so you didn't really play assassin, like melee assassin on top. So it was a lot of tanks, so I was already comfortable in that role. And I also felt like back in days I had more impact in my Hero League games if I'm playing like ETC or something. So I just spammed a lot of him to climb. And then the role kind of just fits me as my playstyle. So it was just a natural choice for me, basically.
Do you feel that tanks are currently in a good spot in the game?
I think tanks are way too squishy almost. I feel like the tank diversity now isn't that large. It's basically 4 tanks. It's Johanna, Muradin, ATC, and Diablo. And it's kind of, you're always going to get one of those. And a lot of the time it's just focus to tank or dive the backline. So I think it's kind of hard for tanks to play like they want to play now, because there's so much meltdown in the game now, so you can easily burst a tank down with a CC chain pretty fast. But I'm not sure how they would go around fixing that. We'll just see what happens. I still like playing tank though, so.
Do you have any ideas on how you could address that, or where you would like the game to go in that case?
I mean, if I knew that, I would probably be a game developer, or something like that. I'm not really like put into that position because I'm not sure what to do. So I decided just to play the meta as it is and adapt.
Okay. Yeah, that being said, I mean, you guys currently, when you look at the Open Division, you guys, of course, are doing pretty well right now, but what would happen, let's say, make it into the Crucible and things fall apart? Would you guys still stick around? Like, I mean, it's a bit tough to say, obviously, but currently, is that the big goal in the last attempt, the last hurrah, or is
for
that
me
something
personally, or the team? For me personally, I think even if I don't make it into HGC, I mean, sure, I would be pretty crushed, but I would probably go for another season because I still like the game now, at least, and I'm gonna continue playing it even if I don't make it into the scene like this season or this time. So I'm still gonna play it, and I still burn to play it competitive. It's my passion, so I'm not gonna give up just because I don't make it this time.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much, Lauber, for the interview, and I wish you good luck for the Open Division, and hope to see you guys in the Crucible.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much for watching today's episode. And if you guys liked the video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you want to support the channel, then make sure that you subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I'm going to be back with more content pretty soon. So see you guys soon with another Heroes of the Storm commentary, or maybe an interview or two.